What are you doing, Brent?
I'm trying to find the right words here. I'm writing a note to Tom. You know, he works really hard. He's a professor. He's trying to help students know Jesus. Just trying to think of the right words to encourage him. I'm just going to write him a note on Facebook. Well, you got your computer. Why don't you look up a definition of wisdom for me?
Okay. Wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. The quality of being wise. That sounds like Tom.
Wonder if I can send him a passage to include. Can you look up Proverbs 25:28?
Okay.
I think that would be a good one.
A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. What made you think of this verse?
Well, you know Tom, he's wise. He's got like lots of self-control. And I just think about character. And I've heard that character is who you are when nobody's watching.
Yeah, I know you've heard that. I say that to you all the time. You heard it from me.
Well, I think Tom just always does what's right and he acts with integrity, even when no one sees.
Well, how would you know?
Oh, I know things, dear. So Tom has great self-control and great character.
Well, I agree. But how do you think he became a man of such character?
Well, I think it comes down to, like, are you willing to do the right thing all the time? So it doesn't matter what your circumstances are, your consequences, if you're going to suffer personal loss, any of those things. It's just doing the right thing all the time.
Like Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
I guess so.
When they were exiled from their homeland, they showed remarkable wisdom and self-control, even when their lives were threatened. We can read about them in Daniel chapters 1-3.
Yeah, so you think about it, in those days, so Israel was taken captive by Babylon, right? And so what they did is they took a bunch of young men and they trained them in the kingdom. They wanted them to become like overseers of other people, and so they taught them the language, the lifestyle, and the customs of the Babylonian, because what they wanted them to do was like distance themselves from their culture and embrace the Babylonian culture. So Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were 4 of those young men that they took.
Can you imagine that as a young man being taken from your parents, taken from your homeland to a new place where nobody spoke your language or knew your customs, anything like that? Like, it would be really tempting to just try to blend in and do as your captors did, you know, worship their gods, talk the way that they talk.
Maybe even dress the way that they dress.
Well, maybe not that one, because I'm really partial to cotton, and they didn't start wearing cotton until about 700 BC.
Why would you actually know that?
I know things.
Anyways, these young guys, they were men of godly character, right? So you can tell by the choices that they made. So one of the choices that they make is the king wanted to feed them all of their good, fat, and rich foods, right? He wanted to fatten them up and strengthen them up and give them the best of the land. But a lot of those foods, they were forbidden by, Israel's law, God's law for Israel. So they chose not to do it.
Don't tell Emmanuel that story, because he will think that serving God is the worst thing ever.
Why? Because all they did was eat vegetables?
Exactly. But God honored their decision and gave them remarkably good health. Let me read you a passage here from Daniel 1, verses 17-20. As for these 4 youths, God gave them learning and skill in all literature and wisdom, and Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. At the end of the time, when the king had commanded that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. And the king spoke with them, and among all of them none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, also known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore they stood before the king, and in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king inquired of them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters that were in all his kingdom.
Yeah, so for us, we've got the Bible. We can read the story and we know how it turns out. So it makes sense to us that they would not touch any of those foods. But for them, can you imagine the self-control it would have taken for them to not know what the outcome would be, but to choose to honor God instead of just going along with what their captors wanted.
And we read later that Daniel chose to be disciplined in prayer even when it became a legal offense. He prayed 3 times daily in a location where he could be clearly seen, showing everyone that he worshiped only one God and that he wasn't afraid of men.
Yeah, so he chose to honor God and follow God's ways instead of like the evil mandate by the government that was at that time. And what happened to him? They threw a parade in his honor, right?
No, they didn't.
No, they didn't. He actually got the death sentence. He was thrown into a den of lions, and then God saved him from that den of lions.
And the other boys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, refused to bow down to an idol, to a statue of Nebuchadnezzar. So they didn't deny their faith, even when their lives were threatened. And when they were thrown into a fiery furnace that was too hot even to approach, God sent an angel to protect them.
Yeah, so when God protected them in these situations, the king saw that their God was the one and only true God. And so that's amazing that God protects them as they make those decisions. And we can make wise decisions every day. We've got God's Word. We've got the Bible, and we can read it to know what He wants from us and to apply it to our everyday lives.
So we need to trust that knowing God's truth is what will make us wise. He can help us make wise decisions. He's the source of wisdom, not our feelings or emotions or worldly philosophies.
Yeah, and we can pray for wisdom. Like look at James 1:5. It says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him."
And Brent, I think in one sense everyone wants wisdom. Like we want to know what the right thing is to do. We want to know God's will. We want to make wise choices. And yet, sometimes when God reveals to us what is wisdom, the right thing to do, it doesn't always line up with our will.
Yeah, but if we remember that God is loving, He's powerful, and He's wise, that helps us trust Him even in those circumstances.
Well, and that self-control helps us to resist our natural inclination to make unwise decisions, turning away from sin, turning towards godliness, and choosing to work with others who also love God.
So instead of being ruled by our sinful impulses, with God's help, we can determine what is right, and we can determine to do right and good.
And this takes discipline. It's an intentional decision to do what's wise.
Yeah, so as we desire to live more like Jesus Christ, one thing or two things we should probably be looking to do is live a life of wisdom and self-control, just like He did. Mm-hmm. Well, I feel pretty wise right now. Anything you want to ask me?
Sure. How about you summarize?
Oh, okay. Let me summarize it. Wisdom and self-control require us to believe that God's Word is the source of wisdom, and that we must control our sinful impulses in order to act upon this wisdom. The book of Daniel gives us good examples of wisdom and self-control. These virtues require that we turn away from worldly wisdom and pleasures and do what honors God. Well, thanks for your help. I think I need a snack after all this work. I can just go get something from the kitchen.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can grab some for me too. What are you getting?
Oh, you can't have any. It's chocolate.
Are you sure it's wise to have chocolate at this time of day?
Well, it's good to have chocolate at any time of the day. Is it wise? I don't know. But I need some.